Oh, they will work. I won't make so much noise. Good morning to Sri Sri Radha Kalachandji Dham. Good morning to all of the assembled devotees. You obviously want to be here because who else would come out in this rain? I have totally no idea who else. It won't do any good anyway. But it is very, very wonderful that so many people show up regardless of the weather. It's like warriors on a battlefield, regardless of the weather, regardless of the conditions, they're there. So, my dandavats to you all. So, we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 18, and I think we're going to cover texts 6 through 16 and focus on 16. But we always like to begin with Jaya Radha Madhava. And definitely the mridangas really bring out the beat, so please let us hear the mridanga. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jararanjanan Yashodanandana Braja Jararanjanan Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jararanjanan Yashodanandana Braja Jararanjanan Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Kalachandji, Radha Kalachandji Radhe. Jaya Jaya Jagannath, 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 Jaya Jaya Jagannath. Jaya Jaya Baladev, 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 Jaya Jaya Baladev. Jaya Jaya Subhadra, 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 Jaya Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jaya Gornitai, 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 Jaya Jaya Gornitai. Nitai Goro Haribol, 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 Nitai Goro Haribol. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So before we read the chapter, and again that's text chapter, what is it, 18, Canto 9. And we're going to start with text 6 through 19. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gnanatimarandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Tashmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikan. We all were born in the darkest of ignorance. And those that have spiritual masters, and even if not, Srila Prabhupada is the ultimate spiritual master. Our spiritual masters opened our eyes with the torch of knowledge. And we all should offer our most humble obeisances to our spiritual masters and Srila Prabhupada. So we're going to begin with text 6. And who would like to start reading? Oh, yeah, so, yeah. But we can still use the microphone, right? Okay. It's not.
Just speak into it. You won't hear but
Shukadeva Goswami said, one day Vishwapava's daughter Sharmishta, who was innocent but angry by nature, was walking with Devayani, the daughter of Shukracharya, and with thousands of friends. In the place, in the palace garden, the garden was full of lotuses and trees and flowers and fruits, and was inhabited by sweetly singing birds and bumblebees.
When the young lotus eyed girls came to the bank of a reservoir of water, they wanted to enjoy by bathing. Thus, they left their clothing on the bank and began sporting, throwing water on one another.
While sporting in the water, the girls suddenly saw Lord Shiva passing by, seated on the back of his bull with his wife Parvati. Ashamed because they were naked, the girls quickly got out of the water and covered themselves with their garments.
Mm.
Sharmistya unknowingly put Devayani's dress on her own body, thus angering Devayani, who then spoke as follows.
Oh, just see the activities of this servant maid, Sharmishta. Disregarding all etiquette, she has put on my dress, just like a dog snatching clarified butter meant for use in a sacrifice.
We are among the qualified Brahmanas who are accepted as the face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Brahmanas have created the entire universe by their austerity, and they always keep the absolute truth within the core of their hearts. They have directed the path of good fortune, the path of Vedic civilization, and because they are the only worshipable objects within this world, they are offered prayers and worshipped even by the great demigods, the directors of the various planets, and even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Super Soul, the Super Purifier, the husband of the Goddess of Fortune. And we are even more respectable because we are in the dynasty of Bhrigu. Yet, although this woman's father, being among the demons, is our disciple, she has put on my dress exactly like a Shudra taking charge of Vedic knowledge.
Shukadev Goswami said, when thus rebuked in cruel words, Sarmishta was very angry, breathing heavily like a serpent and hitting her lower lip with her teeth. She spoke to the daughter of Shukracharya as follows.
You beggar, since you don't understand your position, why should you unnecessarily talk so much? Don't all of you wait at your house depending on us for your livelihood like crows?
Wow. Ah, this is so sweet. This is so sweet.
Crows have no independent life. They fully depend on the remains of foodstuffs thrown by householders into the garbage tank. Therefore, because a Brahmana depends on his disciples, when Sarmishta was heavily rebuked by Devyani, she charged Devyani with belonging to a family of crow-like beggars. It is the nature of women to fight verbally at even a slight provocation. As we see from this incident, thus has been the nature for a long, long time.
Using such unkind words, Sharmishta debuked Devyani, the daughter of Shukracharya. In anger, she took away Devyani's garments and threw Devyani into a well.
Yeah, we ended 16, but it was very nice to hear that. Thank you. I always, when we're listening to the scriptures, is nectar, total nectar. But just for my purification, I would definitely like to read the shloka, the Sanskrit of text 16. But before I do that, offering prayers to my guru. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Budale Shrimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Namane Namaste Krishna Prabhupada Astratmane Shri Guru Guru Nashakti Bhakti Tirtha Swami Namane Jai Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So but that's better. Sanskrit of text 16 and the chapter course is covering King Yayati regains his youth. Atmavritam avignaya katase bahu bhikshuki kimna pratikshashe smakam Brihan balabujo yataha Atmavritam avignaya katase bahu bhikshuki kimna pratikashe smakam Griha balibujo yata Atmavritam avignaya katase bahu bhikshuki kimna pratikshashe smakam Griha balibujo yata. Would someone like to tackle that? Admavrikta vignaya kapte bahu bhikshuki kimnat pratikshashe smakam griha bali bujo yata admavrikta vignaya kate bahu bhikshuki kimna pratikshashe smakam griha bali bujo yata Atmavriktama vignaya katase bahu bhikshuki kimna pratikshashe smakam bahadbali pujo yataha
Atmavrittama vignaya
Atmavrikta vignaya
katase bahu bhikshuki
katase bahu bhikshuki
kimna pratikshase smakam
kimna pratikshashe smakam
grahan balibujo yata.
Rahabali bujo yata. Thank you. Very nice. Very nice. So word for word, atmavriktam, one's own position, avignaya, without understanding, katase, you are talking madly, bahu, so much, bhikshuki, beggar, him, whether, na, not, pratikshashe, you wait, asmakam, our, grihan, at the house, balibuja, crows, yata, like. So actually, okay, so we've read the translation and the purport. But for my purification, I'd like to read it again. Translation, you beggar, since you don't understand your position, why should you unnecessarily talk so much? Don't all of you wait at our house, depending on us for your livelihood like crows? Purport, crows have no independent life. They fully depend on the remnants of foodstuffs thrown by householders into the garbage tank. Therefore, because a Brahmana depends on his disciples, when Sharmishta was heavily rebuked by Devyani, she charged Devyani with belonging to a family of crow-like beggars. It is the nature of women to fight verbally at even a slight provocation. As we see from this incident, this has been their nature for a long, long time. This is a powerful chapter, powerful text, and that is definitely a powerful statement. Wow, there's so much to be said about this, but I'll try to tackle it a little bit at a time. What's interesting is that whenever you have two people or more than one person in one place, there is always going to be some confusion, some disagreement, because we're different entities and we have our own thoughts. So we're going to disagree. Do not be surprised if it happens. Be surprised if it doesn't happen. And here, there are actually people, there are actually brahmanas that relate to, what is it, text 12 to 14, where you're so puffed up, you think the world has to wait on you. But I have discovered the most highly elevated person would be the person that's washing the dishes or the person that's cleaning out the restroom, because the position of the Varna, it doesn't specifically tell you about the personality of a person unless they live that character. And I know a lot of us can relate to this, where there's been a disagreement. We have this personality that is, what is it? Angry by nature. And there are personalities like that. And we respond in such a way that it's out of the mouth before we even think about it, which the scriptures is a lesson in discipline. All of these things happened at a time where the purity of that age was much better than Kali youth. So, in my humble opinion, I look at them as lessons. These are lessons for us to live by. And in this particular one, it's a lesson of humility. Things happen, confusion takes place, people do things that are misunderstood. How often have we done something and we meant it to happen one way, but it came out another, such as Devyani mistakenly putting on Sharmishta's clothing, or what note was the Sharmishta putting on Devyani's clothing? Mistake. We are so quick to chastise an individual. We are so quick not to forgive. It reminded me of how infrequently we actually forgive each other, how infrequently we look at the other person as someone that's very close to us and we cherish that relationship. We're supposed to treat every individual whose paths we cross as possibly someone that, my Gurudev put it this way, look at it as someone that at some point in time you actually may leave your body in their presence. That's a little intense, but the point is we should treat each other respectfully. This is happening with a Brahmana's daughter. And in this particular incident, when a Brahmana female marries a Kshatriya male, what is it, Patiloma, that usually is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. But it goes back to class. We don't do that. We don't get into that. One individual is as good as another. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. What this reminded me of, just reading it, is that we have to be careful as parents when we bring children into the world. There's an old biblical saying that I remember from the past where the sins of the parent are visited upon the children. Now, Nahu, I think, is it Nahu or Nahusa? Nahusha the father of Yayati, assaulted or accosted, or, well, he assaulted Indra's wife. So the curse was that Nahusa would leave the heavenly planet and become a serpent. Well, down the line, his son, Yayati, is able to become a king. And if you follow the steps of this all, something happens with the parent. Whatever we do as parents are going to impact the child one way or the other. Now, that may sound like that doesn't make sense. It does. I've seen it happen. And here we're looking at the scriptures. Point, when we're given the responsibility of children, when we bring them into the world, first of all, we shouldn't bring them into the world if we cannot make them devotees, if we cannot bring them to the Lord. Once they're here and you understand this process, it is your responsibility to make sure that they're brought up properly under the guidance of the scriptures or the guidance of the parent. Hopefully they're abiding by the scriptures. The point is, even if parents are doing everything that they're supposed to do, sometimes the child will do things that are totally that child's inclination. And here, Devyani, with the background of a Brahmana family, is so puffed up and so arrogant that a slight mistake has her offending her maidservant. And this maidservant actually breaks it down. We think that we're one thing. We think that there's a class of individuals that should be treated a certain way by another class of individuals. This is a problem. We should be treating each other respectfully and as family members. Otherwise, if this had happened that way, this pastime would not have even taken place. What I'm getting from this, well, there are a couple of things that can be gotten from this. But what I'm getting from this is that step by step, at every point in our lives, we should be treating each other and respecting each other, understanding in each and every entity in this room, Krishna resides in the heart. So we should really be cautious as to how we treat each other. But we're not. We walk around and we think the world evolves around us, as I guess obviously Devyani did. And then along comes someone to chastise us and bring us to our reality, to let us know that in this particular case, well, I'm skipping some things too. In this particular case, when this happened, when Shamishta ended up mistakenly wearing Devyani's clothing, this was an offense. She was upset. So Shamishta's father welcomed Devyani's father, who came to them, and he was quite upset. His daughter was upset. So when the daughter's father is upset about what happens, there's such anger and such fury in that individual. But Shamishta's father was anticipating this, and he wanted to rectify this. So he had Shamishta go to be Devyani's maidservant. This does not always play out in real life and in reality. But the point is, one mistake that happened years ago with a grandparent falls down to the grandson, and it has the trickle-down effect. Because what ends up happening is that Devyani becomes with child. Shamishta sees this, so she also wants a child. I'm looking at all of the 4 defects that we are totally guilty of, and they're all played out in this particular scripture. The illusion, cheating, imperfect senses, and what's the 4th one? committing offenses, illusion, cheating, and illusion. Okay. They all played out. Yeah. They all played out in this particular situation. First of all, there were a couple of mistakes. The mistake of Devyani losing her temper with Shamishta, the mistake of the father or the grandfather, Nahusa, committing an offense with Indrani's wife, and the illusion of Devyani thinking that because she was a Brahmana, she was to be treated a certain way. The misunderstanding of Yayati. Well, let's go back to the cheating. In that particular age period or time period, it was okay and acceptable for a male to have more than one wife. But looking at it from our standpoint, he cheated. Ultimately, he made Sharmishta pregnant. So here he is cheating on his wife. And he was in the illusion, I guess, that it was acceptable. I'm probably not giving you point by point, but the point is all of these 4 defects play out in our lives. We think that we are perfect sometimes, but the one thing that I remember as being a perfect examples of individuals not being perfect is that we see the sun. And if we're looking at it with human eyes, we think it's the size of a nickel or a quarter. That is so many more times bigger than what we actually think it is or actually see it is. So there are things that we have to accept about ourselves. We're imperfect. We're going to make mistakes. We cheat. We're an illusion. And the only thing that brings you to the understanding, hopefully, is that you will understand your position in this life. You will take shelter of the Lord regardless of whatever faith it is. What's important is that we build a foundation that's with the understanding that the Lord is the supreme personality. Our position in life is to be the servant of the servant of the servant. And if we understand that position, it's not how would I say? It's not a position of being looked down upon. It's a very highly elevated feeling or position to have humility. As a matter of fact, it's a very empowering thing. And I think that when we realize that our position is being a servant of the servant, if the world operated in such a way that we felt it was our position to serve one another, we wouldn't have all the crazy crises that are taking place. We're so attached to, this is mine, this is not yours, and we fight over things. I mean, here Devyani is. She's so attached to this garment that Shamishta wears it accidentally. All of this is accidental. And from that moment on, she loses it. We need to understand that everything in this material world is not ours. The Lakshmi, the houses, the cars, even our own children, they're gifts from God. They are not ours. And we have to treat them accordingly. Had Devyani looked at her clothing as something that, oh, okay, so she accidentally wore it, no big deal. We are very attached to things, and one of the things that it's important to learn in this movement and in ISKCON is to become detached. Become detached from whatever wealth you have, even down to the point of understanding some degree of detachment with your children. Not that you shouldn't love them, but to the point where you don't live and breathe that child. What I'm saying is we have to understand that whatever we have is God's, is the Lord's, and it should be treated with respect. They should be treated with respect. We should honor whatever the Lord has given us. And we should not be so puffed up and so arrogant as to think, me, mine, this is mine, this is ours. The the takeaway point here, and the one interesting thing was the was it the father? Okay, yeah, it was the father goes to correct the situation with the daughter, with Sharmishta's father. And it reminds me also of the position of those that are in the position of parents or in the position of elders. It is very important to take our positions in life responsibly. How we act and how we do things, children are constantly watching us. And if you want a child to learn something, don't talk so much about it. Preach by example. Be an example of whatever it is you want the child to learn. The takeaway points here that I got, and everyone's going to get a different takeaway point, is that first of all, whatever position we have in life, whatever our vanashram, whatever our varna is, whatever it is, each one of them are important, every single one of them. We come into this world, and actually we're all, what is it? There's a saying somewhere in the scriptures that we're actually male or female. We come into this world as feminine energy, or we're all Sudras, because the Lord is the ultimate personality and we are his servants. If we have that position or understand that's our position in life, very little will disrupt us, very little will disturb us. Being in the position of a servant, not being attached to the things that have been given to us, would make our lives a lot easier. But then again, our four defects keep us in trouble. If the arena outside of this temple, the political arena, did not have those four defects, the world would operate perfectly. It's all, if you look at what's happening, cheating, illusion, the mistakes, the propensity to cheat, all of those things are taking place. And if the world were found, if the leadership of anyone in a position respected those defects and did not become a part of it, this would be a perfect world, but it was not meant to be a perfect world. We're here because we wanted to be like the Lord. We wanted to, how did they say, lord it over the material universe. So the Lord created the universe, the material planet. We're supposed to play out whatever our issues were, whatever it is that needs to be corrected, has to be corrected on this material plane. Otherwise, we'll come back again and again until we correct it. The scriptures are a foundation for us. If nothing else, if you take nothing else away from this particular class today, use the foundation of the scriptures. There are lessons for every possible scenario that can take place in life. There is no reason why there should be problems and issues in the world if we took to the scriptures, if we understood our position in the world, if we understood that we were servants of the servant of the servant, if we treated each other as if that other person was a family member, I think we wouldn't have so much disturbance, so much me, mine, and ours. That whole part, that whole bit about being a united front, a family, is what our movement and any other movement that is worshiping the Lord is about. When we understand that, life can be a lot easier. It won't be perfect, but the point is, no matter how imperfect it is, we always have the scriptures to fall back on, and we always, always, always have the Lord. No matter what's going on in our lives, we always have the shelter, always the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord to take advantage of. Here we are in the United States, and we have the option of coming to a temple and worshiping the Lord and being able to worship and call the Lord whatever honorable name that we want to call him, whatever faith we're in. We have to understand that we are very, very fortunate to be in this point, this place, and this time, because in other parts of the world, they are not allowed to have a temple. They are not allowed to worship differently. And what that reminds me of is what the topic was at yesterday's class. It was a topic of understanding the need to be grateful and to be thankful and appreciative. And yes, I realize it went a lot of different places with this topic, but the point is, in most of the movements, but in this particular one, we need to be thankful for the fact that we actually woke up this morning. My parents used to say that, and I thought it was so corny. You know, I woke up in my right mind with the right activity of my limbs. So, but as you progress in life and you get older, you realize all of those things will not necessarily work the way you want them to work. If we have the mood, even though that's not one of the takeaways of this text, if we have the mood of gratefulness, of being very thankful, of even being here, whatever our condition, financial, physical, mental, the point is we are here right now with an opportunity to make that situation better. And we should take time out on a daily basis to be thankful, to be grateful, to be very thankful even when things are challenging. I didn't think that was possible, but when there are challenges even within life, I'll say, thank you, Krishna, because it gives me an opportunity to do something, to achieve something a little bit better than what was happening. But the point is, I'm noticing that even when I'm being grateful in a situation where things are so intense, something happens with my consciousness. And whatever is going on, all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, I can handle this. This is okay. Something happens within the heart. There's a relationship between the jiva and the super soul. There's something that happens when you say thank you, when you are grateful for the least little thing. They used to say, first a crumb of bread, a glass of water. You never know where you're going to appear or be in life 5 minutes from now, 5 years from now. You don't know. But what I do know from experience is that when you are appreciating whatever it is that you're given, whatever happens along the way in life, you're able to handle it because you weren't puffed up, you were appreciative, and you understood your position, and you understood you were a servant. And as you're serving, ultimately you're serving Krishna. So think whatever you're doing, Krishna's seeing it, you're offering it to Krishna. We should be a lot more cautious in how we behave every single day. And most of us think, well, I'll do it and nobody sees it. The Lord sees every step we make, everything that we do. And we should operate in this universe with the understanding you are being seen every single moment. Your actions are seen. Your mind, your thought process, it's being seen by the Lord. That is the ultimate father, the ultimate teacher, the ultimate protector, the ultimate force. So knowing that we should be respectful, we should treat each other properly as family members, because we all are. I don't care where you came from. We are one family. And I'm sorry, I bring that up all the time, but it's like I see that lacking in most establishments of religion, not just ISKCON, in a lot of different religious institution, that ability to treat each other as family, to understand that it is our responsibility to take this life that we've had to make the best of it, but along the way, to be kind to the next person. It is very important to do that because when you are behaving on that platform, it's like the Lord multiplies everything that you're doing. Whatever it is you're doing, it's multiplied. When you're doing kindness, and especially when you're serving the Lord's child, when you're serving one another, the Lord increases whatever it is that's coming to you, whatever it is. So think positive, negative. So with me, it's I have to catch myself sometimes if I'm thinking a certain way or if I say something, it's like I pull back because it's like the Lord has heard me say this. I've got to apologize. I've got to correct this because ultimately I'm going to get the repercussions of it. So in this particular chapter, in chapter 18, we understand that it started off with an offense and it just kind of trickled down the family. And another takeaway is how we should behave because we're all examples of something or someone or to someone. So we should understand that we're being watched by the Lord. And then whatever it is we're giving out, we're going to get it back. So hopefully whatever it is, a kind word, a kind act, whatever it is, I would rather that come back to me than being puffed up and being offensive based on, in this particular situation, I don't know if it was really Devyani's thing that she was from a Brahmana family and this is Shamishta's from a, Shamishta was her maidservant, looking down. But we shouldn't have that, we should not have that mindset. We should treat each other respectfully. We should understand that every single action that we make, there's another reaction. I think in science there's always an equal and opposite reaction, or there's always an action, a reaction to what we do. So we should be mindful. That's another takeaway. Be mindful of how you interact with people, even if you don't know them. Even if you don't know them. When you walk outside that door, how you behave inside should be the same way that you behave when you're going to the grocery store, when you're shopping at the mall. Treat people in such a way that they know the Lord is in the heart and they respect you and they want to be a part of whatever this is that you're doing. Very important that we set forth a really good understanding and impression of a God-conscious person because that's who we're supposed to be. We should act the part. In each of these scenarios that we're reading from, it's a teaching moment. These are teaching moments. This was in a time period where they were so much more perfect than we are, but the Lord is being very loving with us and giving us an example of what happened, what could happen, and it allows us to evaluate what we should be doing if we're not correcting the process or the procedure. It's allowing us to be better than we are. Be better. Do better than whatever you did yesterday, whatever you're doing today. Be better. We should constantly be improving. So I realize that took you so many places with this. I always do that with the scriptures. I love it. I always like the opportunity. But I'm just curious, out of those that actually read along as we were reading, and to the point of text 16, what are some of your takeaways? What did you get from this? I know some of the things that were in my heart on this, but what was your takeaway of what you read? The story behind, and we've not even gotten to Yayati, King Yayati regaining his youth. But what has been your takeaway of the text and what we've read so far? Did you actually listen? Any takeaways? What did you get from this? And even the young adults, the young ones. I mean, you guys are sitting here and you're taking in so much. You're listening. What did you get from it? Anything? Yes.
Hi, Krishna, Mother
Yes.
Antaryami.
Exactly.
Thank you for nice class. So, as you were reading, as we were all reading through this, um, my first thought was, I don't even see most like just regular kids behave like how Sharmishta and Devyani were most of the times, because even many schools you'll see right from childhood, if two kids have an issue, okay, this is the peace flower, and kids speak their emotions
Yeah.
and tend to, or a stone or something, it is like very much a part of culture today in the schools, so wherever where children have issues, um, the teachers, they help them work it out before they
Mm.
move on to the next.
Mm.
And I was just thinking about, how they share everything. The girls, when they're growing up together, they share a lot of stuff. So then I was like, how come this is, this way, and how come this is such an important thing? So and you were expressing how gratitude. I was thinking maybe I don't know the full backstory of between the two of them till it came to this point. Was this the straw that broke? You know, was there something else leading up to it? So like not to judge why Devyani just reacted so strongly to her friend Sharmishta this way, or why that. I mean, of course, then we can see why Sharmishta counter reacted because Devyani was so upset. So yeah, not to judge, why people snap at the smallest of things,
Mm.
because maybe there's something more that's building up to it.
Sure. Sure. And usually there is a lot more to a backstory. When someone angers so quickly, it's really not about that. You'll find that it's really not about that immediate situation. Something else has gone on. Now, I'm trying to remember back to the relationship that Daviani had. They were friends. From what I'm remembering, they were friends. They were out playing in the water. Uh, Lord Shiva and Parvati came by, and Devyani and Shamista were not clothed. So it starts off where they're not clothed. They see Lord Shiva and Parvati riding along on the bull. So they immediately get their clothing. It started out as a friendship. The very fact that in the process of being speedy and changing clothes, um, Shamista by mistake wore Devyani's. So this really got Devyani's temper up. It's like, who is this person? This maid service, she's got my clothing. But very good question. What else was going on? Why would you get angry? If that were me at that age, we're close friends. And usually we're close friends when we're young because we don't pick apart the person's personality. You want to keep that friendship. But yes, good question. Something else usually is going on because she went from, what do they call it, 0 to 60 as far as her move. She went that quickly. So it was uncalled for, it was unnecessary. But because she thought and she worked on the mood of anger, it led to a very uncomfortable situation with two best friends. And how often have we seen a misunderstanding happen? How often have we had a misunderstanding with someone over ultimately something that made no sense whatsoever, lost our temper, and that's hard to come back from that. Once you've lost it, once you've insulted someone, it's a real big step to go back and straighten everything out. But yeah, that was a good. I read that too. It's like, really, she just mistakenly wore your clothes. What is the big deal? But yeah, that's a good point. But it's also nice that you're saying, because I don't have, my kids are not, they're grown now, so I don't really know the atmosphere in schools right now. But from what I'm hearing, it doesn't get to that point, they talk it out. That is so much better than when my kids were coming up and when I was coming up. There was always a knucklehead, a bully, and there was always the person to be bullied. And I understand they're doing so much better with that now. And I like the fact that they're having the kids talk things out, because if you don't catch them at that point when they're young, it's like, what is the saying? Bend the tree while it's young. Otherwise, when that tree grows up, you're not going to be able to bend it. Same thing with a child. Correct the child when they're young, because if you try it when they're older, forget it. They've already established their personalities, but it's good to know that it's a different scenario in schools. But yes, I would say Daviana lost it. She totally lost it over something that was so minor. Thank you for reminding me of what this was all about. Anyone else have something?
I was reminded of the saying, making a mountain out of a molehill.
Ah,
And
yes.
how often, we do that, I do that, how made me think about, do I do that? Do I turn something that's small and insignificant into a huge ordeal, And like Tulsi said, there's always something else going on with you when that
Yes.
happens. It's not just the reaction, what's going on in the moment. So, how often do we bring our anger from something else into a situation and, make it so much bigger than it should be?
Very often we do. And the sad part about it is once you've gone there, it's so hard. If your ego is really big, if your ego's really tough, it's hard to go back and say, I didn't mean it, or I'm sorry. But what I'm finding as a devotee, even at this age in life, is that I'm learning how to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, or stepping back and looking at a situation. And trust me, it helps the blood pressure. It calms you a lot more than just taking something and running with it, taking a mood and getting angry and just going to the extreme with a minor situation. But yeah, good point. Yes. And very often we do that. Very often. But that is the one thing that I have to say I've gotten from being a devotee, even at such a late stage in life. I'm learning how to back away. We should forgive. What do we lose? We lose absolutely nothing. We gain so much more when we say those three words, I am sorry. I made a mistake. You do not lose who you are. As a matter of fact, it makes you a bigger person to be able to do that. Respect, total respect for an individual that can do that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, Gopal.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Mother Antaryami. It was a nice class. Yeah, so my takeaway, rather the reminder to me, was when you mentioned detachment is the goal. We should not be attached. You said how we should be loving our near ones and dear ones, but somewhere back of the mind, we should have this understanding and consciousness that everything belongs to Krishna.
Yes.
So that was a reminder. One question. I was wondering, like Srimad Bhagavatam, especially as you progress first canto to 12 cantos, when you are here in the ninth canto, look, no offense, I'm not judging any characters, as mentioned, but Shukracharya and Yayati, Devayani, Sharmishta, from pure devotional service point of view, what is the relevance here, except from the lesson that material attachment brings frustration? Like in the upcoming episode, we'll see how King Yayati would be showing the epitome of material attachment, and then that leads to frustration. So I was wondering, what is your take on this? What is your understanding?
Could I hear your last two sentences?
What is your take on this? All these characters from pure devotional service point of view, like Srimad Bhagavatam, they're in the pages of Bhagavatam. and we are heading towards 10th canto, right? So detachment from the material world and everything, that is understandable in the first couple cantos, but as we are progressing to the sweetest part, so what is the exact relevance of this particular episode here?
Good one. Very good question. Very good question. From Canto 1 to this point, because there are a lot of, oh, Krishna, there are a lot of lessons there. But my takeaway from 1 to 9 is, personally, it's breaking down the walls and the barriers of the ego. It's helping me to understand that it's not all about me, that we are united through Krishna in the heart, that we are part and parcel of a much bigger picture. And as we recall that, it helps me sometimes to be more tolerant of nonsense. Ordinarily, I would kind of sort of lose it with nonsense. It's like, what is wrong with you? Are you kidding? My patience has become better. My tolerance level is better because I have an opportunity to look at people and to understand that there's much more to this picture. There's much more to this person than what I'm seeing. And even though a situation develops, it's allowing me to think about what is behind all of this and not to react so quickly. And it's allowed me to step back a lot instead of having to go toe to toe with the situation. It's not always necessary. It's much more calming to look at something, to evaluate it with love, because I would do the same thing if a person in my family were acting a certain way. I mean, totally outrageous. I'm not going to hate you. I am going to understand something's going on here. Let me see what it is. And it's tolerance. I would have to say it has helped me to become more tolerant in some of the most outrageous situations and not to put me in the middle of it, because it's not about me. It's something else is going on. To be compassionate. So tolerance and compassion, I would have to say, I have developed more of from the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam to now, and it just continues. And the nice part about it is that we get a chance to see and hear the scenarios where things happened then that are happening right now. And then you get an understanding and you get instructions and you see how they handle it. And it helps us to live, hopefully, a more peaceful life and to not take things so seriously. But yeah, that was a very good question. Thank you. Very good question. Oh, yes. Yes. Who?
Hare Krishna.
Manjari?
Thank you for class. I just wanted to share something that this class reminded me of. We look at this and it seems so outrageous to see what these two women are saying to each other, but we don't want to maybe recognize that that's how we act. And it's just a reminder of how, like as you mentioned, how we should be acting with devotees and also non-devotees. And I listened to this really wonderful class by His Holiness Kadamba Swami Maharaj recently. And he was saying how in order to progress in Krishna consciousness, we have to take more association of devotees. But that's hard because the devotees don't act the way that we want them to. And they don't say the things that we want them to say. But we have to become more tolerant because they're not pure devotees and we're not pure devotees.
True.
And Mahatma Prabhu, he makes these really cool t-shirts with slogans, and he has one t-shirt that says, "The biggest problem in ISKCON is that I'm not a pure devotee."
Oh, good one. Thank you. Very nice.
I thought it was really interesting. I was in the beginning of class when I saw that the microphones weren't working and how we're passing them around. I thought if somebody walked in here and saw this, they would think, yeah, how foolish is this? And it was like the whole class was kind of a purport on this, that our senses, we make mistakes, we're illusion, we don't know the whole picture.
Right.
So somebody who walked in wouldn't know the picture is that, the people on YouTube can hear this. And so it was really interesting. And so I have a question from Nanditi Manaji. She says, is this an example of humility, of not being able to control anger?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ego. Humility. I don't know which one is the biggest one in this scenario. I'm thinking ego because from my standpoint, my humble standpoint, Devyani was so puffed up that someone wearing her outfit charged her to the point where she was so offensive to her best friend. This is her friend. They were friends before this. This is ego out of control. And most of the times that we have a problem in our homes, in our relationships with others, if we really look at it, most of the time, it's our ego. We need to pull it in. We need to withdraw it. A lot of offenses are made because, yes, humility does play a part there because we have to be humble enough to, even if someone means something the wrong way, not take offense. Because most of the time, something else is going on. But I would have to say, Nandini, that it would be a case to me, and with someone else, it may be a little different, but I would say her ego was out of control. It totally, and with the ego out of control, she lost humility or the ability to be, to have any humility or humbleness about the situation that occurred. Yes. And Nandraj, you mentioned something earlier about someone coming in and seeing what was happening. We have to remember something very important. Very rarely is something exactly the way it appears. There's no saying, believe nothing that you hear and half of what you see. We misunderstand so much because, first of all, our perception in these material bodies is imperfect. So before we, how do they say, jump to the wrong conclusion, step back and think about it first before it's out the mouth, because I constantly remind myself before I say something. And that's another thing too, Goku. In this movement, I've learned not to say as much as what comes to my mind, because once it's out the mouth, I can't take it back. So yes, I have learned a lot of things, and still so much more to learn. But yeah, we should be careful about what we see and what we hear, and take it, what did they say, with a little grain of salt. Kind of question it a little, grain of salt. Yeah. Yeah, I never thought about what anyone would think when they saw this, because we do things that are so outside the box, but we understand it completely. And I think that's why I like it, because there's nothing that we do that matches a whole lot of things that are going on in the world. But it makes the whole relationship in this movement, in ISKCON, sweeter. And no matter what individuals I come across, what moods they have, I still wouldn't change being here in this particular association. And that's another thing too. Make sure you've got good association. Make sure you have really good association, because in any particular situation, if it's not good, you're not going to enjoy where you are. So even if you don't have it, pray to Krishna. He'll arrange that the right person crosses your path. Very, very important, even as youngsters. Make sure you're choosing your friends correctly, but you've got your parents to assist you with that. Association is important. Thank you so much. Anyone else? Thank you for tolerating me. I can go so many places with these topics. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, jai Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji Dham ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Kripa Sindhubhayeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Vaishnavs ki jai.